Hey guys, and welcome to my very first Wisdom Wednesday. I should call it Lazy Psychologist Wednesday because I'm definitely doing this episode from my couch. But anyway, so today we are going to talk about a theory called behaviorism. So, according to Psychology Today, behaviorism defined is, I'm going to look at my notes, um, a theory that seeks to identify observable, measurable laws that could explain all of human behavior. So this theory was introduced, I won't say introduced, this theory was made very popular in psychology by a psychologist named John B. Watson. So John B. Watson did an experiment at Johns Hopkins, and it is called the Little Albert Experiment. It's a pretty famous experiment about classical conditioning. And he used a 9-month-old baby from a local children's hospital to do an experiment to see if he could, let me see, he wanted to induce fear on the baby. Yes. So he wanted to see if he could teach the baby fear through this experiment. So what Dr. Watson did was he introduced the baby to a couple of different things to see how he would originally react. So he introduced the baby to a couple of different animals to see how he interacted with them. The baby was very receptive, very open, not scared at all. He touched the animals, he was interested, he played with the animals, so everything was completely fine. So Dr. Watson used this to establish a baseline so that he could measure the change in the child's behavior towards the animals and objects after the experiment. So what the experiment consisted of was, of course, the first part that I just said, Mr. Watson introducing the baby to the animals. And then he introduced something else. So what this something else was he used the hammer to bang on a metal pipe. Now, of course, this elicited fear in the baby, and the baby became completely distressed. The baby was crying, as well as, kicking, screaming. The baby was scared, of course. And that would scare me, and I'm, grown. So he used the pipe to elicit fear. He then reintroduced one of the animals specifically. He introduced the white rat. So the white rat was reintroduced to the baby, who originally, of course, was completely receptive to the white rat. He was willing to play with it, and he was not afraid to be around it. So he introduced the white rat to the baby again, and then he introduced the white rat as well as the pipe together. So every time the baby reached out to touch the white rat, Dr. Watson would bang the hammer on the metal pipe. Now, of course, the baby is afraid of the loud noise. So again, the baby is kicking, screaming, crying. The fear is elicited. So Dr. Watson did this over a several week period. And over the 7 weeks, the baby has now associated the noise with him interacting with the rat. So the experiment got to the point where the baby would now be in complete distress anytime the rat entered the room. If the rat just came, no noise included, if they just brought the rat in the room, the baby would become completely distressed for the thought of the noise coming, of course. So in this, Dr. Watson wanted to also see how this experiment or how this fear extended. Did it extend to other animals? Was it temporary or was it over time? So Dr. Watson introduced other furry white animals that look similar to the rat. So a small furry white dog, a small white bunny rabbit, and a sheepskin coat, which we all know is white and furry as well. So he introduced these things, and these things also elicited fear in the baby. So it was not just exclusive to the small white rat. It was almost exclusive to small white things that would elicit this fear of the noise. And the baby did become in distress when being introduced to those subjects. And it further explained that, this conditioning extends. So what this overall, this experiment taught is that, human emotions are susceptible to classical conditioning, and human behavior can be controlled and modified. So, with that being said, I want to ask you guys to answer a question. What have you been conditioned to fear? Classical conditioning happens a lot. It happens directly, it happens indirectly, it happens without you noticing, without you even knowing what it is. I mean, it happens on television commercials and the media, from celebrities. Classical conditioning happens to us. And something that I think about when I think of classical conditioning is the college narrative. I have had a multitude of conversations with different people, and college is not for everybody. It's not everybody's route, and I completely understand that. But a lot of times when I have these conversations, they are mostly, I can't go to college because I'm not smart enough, or I can't compete with the kids that go to college, or I won't be good there, or I won't be successful because I'm not good enough. And it's always like this classical conditioning of just a negative connotation of from conversation, basic conversation that people are having with each other, or that they're telling children, or whoever is conditioning people to believe that college is not for them because they're dumb, or they're not good enough, or they don't belong, or they don't deserve. I mean, this is a narrative that people are having, and that's affecting people day in and day out. People will not even take up the school opportunity because their self-esteem and their self-worth is so shot down by these narratives and this classical conditioning that college will never be an option because somebody already conditioned them that it isn't. And so that's the perfect segue into me asking, what is it, that you feel like you have been conditioned to fear? And how do you feel like you can uncondition yourself from that? And I mean anything. I mean, it's simple things. Somebody told you, or, that, let me see. Somebody told me when I was younger that if, people that leave the country get kidnapped. Now, that does happen. But it also happens right in your backyard. And it also happens 10 minutes down the street from you. I mean, I could have used that as an excuse. That could have been a conditioning for me. I mean, I'm kind of a stubborn person, so I'm probably going to do what I want anyway. But that could have very well been a conditioning for me, that narrative, to not ever go anywhere. Because I had the idea that if you leave this country, bad things will happen. And if that was continuously pushed, so that narrative was a one-off conversation. But if that was continuously pushed, that really could have been a thought that I had, and that really could have prevented me from doing a lot of things. So I just want you guys to take the time to think about it. What do you feel like you've been classically conditioned to believe or to fear? And how do you feel like you can uncondition yourself from that? And then the next part of that is, I want to know, how can you use classical conditioning to your advantage? How can you use classical conditioning to make you a better person? For example, vision boards. I feel like vision boards are a great form of classical conditioning. I feel like you put up a bunch of pictures and quotes and words on a vision board to keep you motivated to reach a goal. And on your vision board are the things that you can obtain when you do reach that goal. And if you consistently look at that, that is a form to me of classical conditioning that can help you make you a better person. That is a form of classical conditioning that can be a positive thing. Because I mean, I referred to very negative things, but it's like, okay, how can we flip it? Let's make it about us. If it's a thing, it is a thing. So how can I use it to my advantage? And that's just something that I want everybody to take away from this today. And that wraps up my Wisdom Wednesday. I really want you guys to, tell me, give me some feedback. Let me know what you guys think. Anything that I missed that you guys possibly want to ask questions about, I'm more than willing. You can leave comments, subscribe to my channel. And I definitely hope to see you guys next week.